$250 million is a strange amount of money to spend on something that supposedly already works. That is exactly what Tesla just poured into the 4680 battery line at Giga Berlin. And the timing is what makes people lean forward in their chairs. The money landed almost at the same moment. A rare look inside the factory floor started circulating, showing a manufacturing process that has done something the battery industry has been chasing for years. Liquid solvents, the sticky chemical backbone of how electrodes have been made for decades, are simply gone from the process. Not reduced, not optimized, gone. The number attached to that change is the part that makes engineers stop and read it twice. Energy consumption in the electrode manufacturing stage drops by as much as 85%. To put that in plain terms, imagine a factory that used to burn $100 of electricity to make a batch of battery material, and now burns 15. Multiply that across a facility designed to produce cells by the millions, running every hour of every day, and the savings stop looking like a technical footnote and start looking like a completely different cost structure for the finished car. So the obvious reaction is to call it a breakthrough and move on. A cleaner process, a cheaper process, a faster process, all wrapped inside a factory that just received $250 million in fresh commitment. Everything in that picture points in one direction, and most coverage of the announcement stopped right there, satisfied. The problem is that a second piece of information was sitting quietly nearby, released only days earlier, and it does not fit comfortably next to the celebration at all. 10 days before those factory images reached the public, Tesla opened an invitation to the outside world. Startups, university research laboratories, even robotics research groups were asked to propose solutions to the bottlenecks still standing in the way of 4680 battery manufacturing. Not future bottlenecks, not theoretical ones. Problems that exist right now inside the same production line that was just shown off as a triumph of engineering. The invitation went out without a press conference, without a stage, without any of the usual noise that surrounds a Tesla announcement. That combination is what turns this from a routine investment story into something worth pulling apart. A company does not usually spend that kind of money on a process, put it on display for the entire planet to inspect, and then ask strangers for help with it in the same month. Those three actions normally belong to three completely different chapters of a company's life. Seeing them stacked into a window of a few weeks suggests that the story being told publicly and the story being lived on the factory floor are not quite the same story. The question that follows is simple, and it is not a hostile one. If this technology genuinely delivers what has been claimed, why does anyone need outside help with it? Answering that requires looking past the polished frames of the production line and paying attention to a set of dates, deadlines, and quiet commitments that have been accumulating around Giga Berlin since spring. The dates in particular carry more weight than they first appear to, and one of them explains almost everything about why the images surfaced when they did. The first date is May 12, 2026. That is when the 4680 line at Giga Berlin actually began operating, which means that by the time those factory images reached the public in the middle of July, the equipment had been running for less than 10 weeks. 10 weeks is a remarkably short life for an industrial system of that scale. Many high-technology plants are still finishing their initial equipment calibration at that stage, still chasing down the small, irritating faults that every new machine produces before it settles into a rhythm. That timing changes the meaning of everything shown. A factory that opens its doors after 10 weeks is not showing a finished product. It is showing a machine that is still learning how to be itself. Sensors are still being tuned, tolerances are still being adjusted, and the people running the line are still building the instinct that only comes from watching the same process repeat thousands of times. Choosing that exact moment for public inspection rather than waiting until the rough edges had been sanded down, is a decision that deserves attention on its own. The second date makes the picture sharper. Full production capacity for this line is not expected until the first half of 2027, which places the current moment roughly at the midpoint of a much longer climb. What the public saw was not the finish line and not even the final stretch. It was a cross-section taken while the work was still very much underway, closer to the middle of a film than to its ending, with a substantial amount of the hardest work still sitting ahead of the team. That distinction matters far more than it might seem. A completed factory and a factory at 50% of its intended output are separated by the most difficult stretch of any manufacturing project. Scaling up is not a matter of simply running the same machines longer. It means adding lines, synchronizing them, feeding them consistent material, and holding quality steady while the volume climbs. Every one of those steps introduces new failure points that did not exist when the operation was smaller and easier to watch closely. Understood this way, what circulated in July was never a victory lap. It was a progress report delivered while the work was unfinished, which is an unusual thing for any manufacturer to publish. The standard approach in the technology industry is silence until the numbers look flawless, then a carefully staged reveal in which nothing appears difficult and nothing appears uncertain. Showing a system at 10 weeks of age deliberately breaks that pattern, and breaking it must have served some purpose. There is also a practical reason why 10 weeks carries so much weight in this particular case, and it has to do with what the machines on that line are actually doing. The process running inside Giga Berlin is not a refined version of how batteries have always been made. It removes an entire chain of steps that the industry has depended on since lithium-ion cells first entered mass production, and understanding what disappeared explains both the enormous savings and the specific kind of trouble that comes with them. Making a battery electrode the traditional way begins with a kind of industrial cooking. Active material is blended with a liquid solvent until it becomes a thick slurry, roughly the consistency of paint, and that slurry is spread in an extremely thin, even layer onto metal foil. The coating has to be flawlessly uniform, because any thick spot or thin spot becomes a weak point in the finished cell. Getting that consistency right is delicate work, and the solvent is what makes the material fluid enough to spread at all. The trouble is that the solvent has to come back out. Once the coating is applied, the foil travels through enormous heated chambers, sometimes running for the length of a building, where it bakes for hours until every trace of liquid has evaporated. Those ovens run continuously, all year, consuming staggering amounts of energy simply to remove something that was added a few minutes earlier. Behind them sits a second system whose only job is capturing the solvent vapor so it does not escape into the air, along with the maintenance crews who keep both systems alive. Cutting the liquid out of the recipe collapses that entire chain at once. No slurry means no evaporation, which means no drying tunnels, no vapor recovery equipment, and no floor space dedicated to either. The material is applied in dry form and pressed directly onto the foil, turning a process measured in hours into one measured in a far shorter span. That is where the 85% reduction comes from. It is not a clever efficiency gain inside the old method. It is the removal of the most energy-hungry portion of it. The savings extend beyond the electricity bill. Drying tunnels occupy an extraordinary amount of a factory's footprint, and removing them frees space that can be filled with equipment that actually produces cells. Fewer systems also means fewer things that can break, fewer maintenance schedules to coordinate, and fewer points where a fault can halt the entire line. On paper, every single one of these consequences reads as an advantage, which is precisely why the approach has been pursued by so many companies for so long. What the paper version leaves out is the difficulty hiding on the other side of that simplification. Liquid slurry, for all its cost, is forgiving. It flows, it levels itself, it smooths out small inconsistencies naturally as it spreads. Dry material does none of that. It must be distributed and compressed with extreme precision. And any variation in how it packs together shows up directly in the finished cell as a difference in capacity, in lifespan, or in how the cell behaves under load. Holding that precision steady is manageable across a handful of samples in a laboratory, where conditions are controlled and the quantities are small. It becomes an entirely different problem inside a working factory processing thousands of material rolls every day, where humidity shifts, machines wear, and material batches vary slightly from one delivery to the next. No laboratory can simulate that reality accurately, which means the only place to discover these problems is on a real production line, running at real speed, with real consequences attached to every error. That is the situation that explains the invitation sent out on July 6th. Working with Junee, an organization dedicated to promoting industrial innovation across Europe, Tesla opened a program called the Cell Giga Challenge, asking outsiders to help untangle the manufacturing bottlenecks that remain in the 4680 process. Startups were welcome. So were university research laboratories and robotics research groups, which is a telling detail, because it suggests some of the obstacles involve how material is physically handled and moved rather than what the material is made of. The manner of the announcement is almost as revealing as its content. There was no press event, no executive on a stage, no carefully produced clip designed for social media. The invitation simply appeared, worded plainly, addressed to people who work on hard mechanical problems for a living. Companies do not usually behave that way when they are trying to generate attention. They behave that way when they are trying to reach a specific group of people and would rather not turn the request into a headline. The timeline attached to it is unusually compressed. Applications close on July 24th, only about 2 weeks after the program was announced, and barely a week after the factory images began circulating. The program itself begins on August 20th. Those intervals leave very little room for the slow, careful evaluation that normally accompanies a corporate research partnership, which suggests the problems in question are not the sort that can comfortably wait for a leisurely selection process. Reading this as a confession of failure would be a mistake, and it misunderstands how large-scale manufacturing actually works. Every technology that looks elegant on paper generates surprises the moment it operates at industrial volume. A sensor reporting a fault a few thousandths of a second off the standard cycle, a material roll compressed slightly unevenly at its edge, a line speed that falls short of what the calculations promised. These are the details that quietly determine whether a factory hits its output targets or misses them. What makes the decision genuinely unusual is the industry it is happening in. Battery manufacturing guards its knowledge the way few sectors do, treating a single material formulation or a specific drying temperature as a competitive secret worth an enormous amount of money. Admitting publicly that problems remain, then inviting strangers to examine them, runs directly against how nearly every competitor in the field operates. Open innovation of this kind is common in software, and almost unheard of on a cell production floor. The invitation was also written with obvious care about where the line sits. It describes the categories of problems that need solving, without disclosing material formulations or the specific operating parameters of the equipment, which keeps the technological core protected, while still giving outsiders enough context to propose something useful. That balance is difficult to strike, and the fact that someone bothered to strike it points to a company that wanted outside help badly enough to accept the risk of asking for it in public. The reason for that urgency sits in a commitment made to people who are not engineers at all. Model Y units built at Giga Berlin using 4680 cells produced on the same site are expected to reach customers by the end of the third quarter of 2026. Those buyers have already placed deposits. They are counting weeks on a calendar, watching for a delivery date, entirely unaware that the timing of their car depends on how consistently a dry powder packs onto a strip of metal foil. That delivery marks something that has not happened before on the continent. It would be the first time a commercial vehicle in Europe carries a battery pack manufactured entirely on German soil, with no cells arriving from another factory on another landmass. Every previous European delivery involved cells that had crossed an ocean or a continent before reaching the assembly line, adding weeks of transit and a long list of things that can go wrong somewhere between a port and a warehouse. For a buyer, that shortens the distance between a car being built and a car being handed over. A pack made a few hundred meters from where it is installed removes the shipping leg entirely, along with the delays that come from port congestion, customs backlogs, or a disrupted shipping route. Anyone who has waited months for an electric vehicle because a single component was stuck in transit understands exactly how much value hides in that arrangement, even though it never appears on a specification sheet. There is a regulatory dimension as well. Rules governing how much of a vehicle must be manufactured within the region are tightening across Europe, and a car whose most expensive single component was produced locally sits in a considerably stronger position than one assembled from imported cells. What currently reads as a logistical convenience could become a genuine commercial advantage within a short number of years, depending on how those requirements are ultimately written and enforced. All of which explains why the factory footage appeared exactly when it did. It arrived at a hinge point, at the moment when the line had matured enough to demonstrate something real, yet remained incomplete enough that outside help was still worth requesting, and only weeks before the first vehicles carrying locally built packs are supposed to reach customers. 3 separate pressures converging inside the same few weeks, each one pulling on the same group of people. Standing on that production floor, the pressure runs in 2 directions at once. Every shift has to keep the line stable enough to meet a delivery target that has already been promised to paying customers, while simultaneously documenting every small irregularity that appears, because those recorded details are the raw material the outside solutions program will be working from. Keeping something running smoothly and cataloging everything wrong with it are not naturally compatible tasks, and both are happening at the same time. None of this is guaranteed to work. If the Cell Giga challenge fails to surface a usable solution before its August 20th start, or if the bottlenecks turn out to be more stubborn than the public description suggests, the end-of-quarter target for locally built Model Y units slides. That would not be an unusual outcome. Battery capacity expansions have fallen months behind schedule at company after company, across multiple countries, for reasons that looked entirely manageable on the original planning documents.